Jericho can start pressing the buttons. And I think now that it should be maybe live now. It just says the event is starting. Now I think it might be live, though.
Excellent. We have just watched AEW All Out, and we have the inaugural AEW World Champion, of course. Stop now if you don't want spoilers. We're going to discuss everything that happened on the show, all the big talking points, all the people who did appear, and all the people who didn't appear. I'm Ollie Davis. This is Luke Owen, and Chris Jericho is the inaugural AEW World Champion after a main event with Hangman Page, who came out on a horse.
He had a bloody big horse with him.
Yeah, that was very cool. Chris Jericho won with the Judas elbow. He hit the Judas elbow after it was a second red eye?
No, the dead eye.
The dead eye. I'm a bit red-eyed myself. We've been up a long time. A second dead eye attempt on Jericho, but he fought out of it, and he hit the Judas elbow. Hangman crashed to the ground. Jericho waited a bit.
Took his time to get the pin, get that move over, brother.
So really protected the finisher. And then, and the whole crowd knew it as soon as that Judas elbow connected. 1, 2, 3.
I saw Brian Alvarez tweet out, was like, Chris Jericho has managed to get a back elbow over in 2019.
Yes, it's quite something.
Yeah.
It was a weird match. It wasn't. It was quite a long match. I wasn't fully into it. I don't think the whole crowd were that into it either.
No, I don't think they were either.
Just because the other matches on the card, the ladder match between the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks, which the Lucha Bros won. They recaptured the AAA Tag Team titles.
Mm-hmm.
Recaptured?
Yeah, you can say recaptured.
Did they? But were the Young Bucks champions before?
They retained. They retained.
Yes,
the
they
titles.
retained the titles in an excellent ladder match where just so many crazy bumps happened.
Ludicrous.
A Canadian destroyer off the top of a ladder through a table happened.
Yeah, and that was just one of the spots. That was a setup spot for other spots.
Yeah, the Pac and Kenny Omega match was predictably excellent. The three-way hardcore match, the Cracker Barrel match between Joey Janela, Jimmy Havoc, and Darby Allin was so much fun.
Yeah.
And Cody and Shawn Spears. Cody, once again, has the best match of the night for me.
Stealing the show, mate.
Absolutely amazing. When Jericho won, he did do a blade job during the match. It was off a... I can't remember.
One of the stories going into this match was when Jericho beat down Hangman and he busted him above his eye, and Hangman was saying like that blood kind of like woke him up, and that's kind of like driven him even more to win this belt. So they kind of like repeat the spot but flipped the script. So this time it was Hangman that busted Jericho open, and then Jericho went to the outside and did this blade job, and actually then almost played like the babyface, who was then like on the, oh my God, I've really got to try and overcome this, while Page was the sort of dominating heel.
Yeah. But in the end, Jericho won, and he cried during his title celebrations.
Yeah.
And a lot of blood got in. Maybe it was just the blood getting into his eye, and that stings.
Yeah, just going, ow.
Or it was genuine emotion. It doesn't really suit Jericho's character to shed tears during winning here. He should be more arrogant and, of course this is me. But I think the moment got to him.
I think so as well, because the character there when he was like get emotional was not the same character he was then doing in his press interviews afterwards, where he was essentially saying like, nope, not speaking to you. Nope, not speaking to you.
So the show went off air with Jericho at the top of the ramp, holding the title into the camera, and he gave a little wink and a nod to the camera. The AEW logo flashed up. We've all seen that many times before on NXT takeovers, and our particular viewership of our live stream shot up massively because I think everyone tuned in waiting to see if CM Punk would turn up.
Yeah, in the last 15 minutes, it was just incrementally growing and growing and growing. And like it was the highest number we had right at the end of the show.
Yes, but CM Punk did not return to wrestling. He did not debut for AEW. His comments in his StarCast interview earlier in that day where he said, I'm not going to be at the show. I'm going to be hanging out with my wife, AJ Lee, and our dog.
Yeah.
And watching the show from home.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what happened because he was nowhere on this show. It's sad, but it was still an excellent show.
That's the thing is like I've seen a few people take the knock with the show that someone who wasn't advertised to be at the show and everyone involved was saying he's not going to be there, didn't show up, and apparently that's now their fault.
Yes, it totally isn't AEW's fault. It's our fault for thinking that,
Yeah.
but that doesn't make it any less sad.
As sad is not the word I'm going to be using, I could say that it is sad that CM Punk is not returned to the wrestling ring, but I'm not going to say that it's sad that he didn't debut at this show. And I think that I really disagree with those people who are now saying that the show is bad because of that, which I just think it's an incredibly stupid thing to say. Because the show, for me, I thought the show was terrific. I was thinking about this while we were setting the stream up. I loved the show. Absolutely loved it, with the exception of the Dark Order Best Friends match and the main event, which I wasn't massively into. But at that point, I think I was exhausted by the ladder match and just the show being too long. And I'd say the show was too long. I loved it. I thought the show was great.
Really, really enjoyed it. But let's talk about who did appear. LAX.
Yes.
Probably the most high profile.
This is good news.
Yes, so after Penta and Phoenix retained their AAA tag team titles, then these two guys ran down wearing, I believe it was a Bill Clinton mask and a John F. Kennedy mask, and
let's just say
they were former presidents.
Let's say they were former presidents, because we most likely wouldn't get them right.
Yes.
And then people will lose their minds because we didn't get it right.
And they beat up the Lucha Bros, and then they beat up the Young Bucks a bit as well, and then they unveiled themselves as
Santana and Ortiz,
who cannot be called LAX.
No, because that's their Impact name, but they are Santana and Ortiz. And so this has been rumored. Meltzer reported this back in, when was Slammiversary? That was July?
Yeah.
Yeah, he reported back in July that they were heading to AEW and that they were going to be finishing it with Impact. And now they're here. And what an incredible tag team division that this company has.
Yeah, and that probably means that 6-person tag team match to kick off AEW on TNT weekly, Chris Jericho's partners will likely be
LAX.
Yeah,
exactly. Which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, an excellent tag team division. We also got Arn Anderson make his sort of on-screen AEW debut.
Which was just so beautiful, because you had Tully Blanchard out there with Shawn Spears.
Yeah, in the Cody-Shawn Spears match, the referee had ejected Tully, had his back turned, and Arn Anderson came down and helped out Cody, who had been, sort of cheated and hoodwinked throughout the match.
Tully had been getting involved throughout the match. Arn Anderson got in and delivered a beautiful double-A spinebuster to Shawn Spears, who sold it like a champ.
Yeah.
It was a wonder. Crowd came unglued. The crowd was so into that match, and then came unglued for the Arn Anderson finish.
And of course, Arn Anderson,
finish,
backstage producer working for AEW, was a backstage producer for WWE for well over 2 decades, I believe. But he left earlier this year because of just backstage issues.
Yeah.
And now he's in AEW, so their loss. We also got Tenille Dashwood, the former Emma in WWE.
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprising one. I was actually quite surprised that Tenille Dashwood came out, because she has just signed to do dates with Impact. And I remember when she signed with Impact, me and Laurie said, I'm actually quite surprised that AEW didn't try and go after her. So maybe they have got a deal with her where she's going to do a few dates with Impact, but she is also going to be doing some stuff with AEW on sort of like a freelance basis, you could say. Which is great, and I think that's a really, really good coup for them, because I think she's terrific.
Yeah, she's always been amazing. She unfortunately just didn't get the right opportunities in WWE.
No, but she debuted in the Casino Battle Royal.
On the buy-in, so their version of the pre-show. Unfortunately, the way that match is structured, those surprise appearances don't really get much of a pop, because 5 people come out at a time, as opposed to one after the other in a traditional Royal Rumble. So
like ODB didn't get the big reaction. Oh, she got a reaction, and so did Mercedes Martinez.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like Mercedes Martinez one was bigger for everyone, because she got the wild card role where you get to come in on your own. Whereas ODB was just ODB and 4 other people.
Yeah, so ODB was a surprise as well. Of course, a former TNA star. So he had a lovely moment where ODB and Awesome Kong were in the same ring together. Now, Nyla Rose won the Women's Battle Royal, and Rio won her match later on against Shida. So that means the first women's champion, the inaugural champion, which will be crowned on that first episode of TV on TNT on Wednesday the 2nd of October, will be between Rose and Rio.
Yeah.
So a sort of monster versus very, very tiny person match.
Which should be And I think that she's shown in the matches that she has done with the Joshi girls, is really great in that role. And I think that could end up being a really, really terrific match.
And we also got an Orange Cassidy appearance.
So the Dark Order Best Friends match got over like a fart in a church.
It was dull.
It just, the Dark Order are not connecting, which is a shame because Super Smash Brothers are a very, very good tag team. I don't know if it's the gimmick. I don't know if it's the way they've been presented. It's not clicking with an audience. And maybe that will change with TV, but regardless, for now, it's not clicking. And the crowd were not really buying into this match at all. But when the lights went down and they came back up and Orange Cassidy was stood in the ring, the place went bonkers.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
Yep, he kept his hands in his pockets the entire time, did a dive out onto the Dark Order.
With his hands in his pockets.
And then got back in the ring and kipped up, still with his hands in his pockets.
And kept his sunglasses on the entire time.
Yep, so that's really cool. And then the best friends hugged him, so maybe there'll be a little group together going forward. And the only other thing of note on the show, besides all the great in-ring wrestling, I'm just talking newsworthy-wise, is on the buy-in, there was a video package for a new wrestler, someone I've never really heard of. He goes by the name Wardlow.
Yes. And it was a really cool video package as well. Kind of this sort of like, I don't want to say fight club, but it was like street fighting, essentially. It was Wardlow was there with this sort of lady manager type, and she essentially walked up to this gang and was like, let this guy loose onto these gangs. They all went up one at a time, and he would just like crack them over their head, choke slam them on the floor. He looked really, really cool. He was then announced as Wardlow, which was less cool.
It's not the coolest name.
No.
But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's get those super chats on.
Let's see what people are saying up in that super chat. This doesn't appear to have completely refreshed. Where's I've seen more chats than that come through. Bear with me, folks. Oh, maybe I was wrong. Okay, right. So we've got these come in. So Flint Mech has said, Punk was great in WWE, and I appreciate his influence, but the fan base who only cares about if he'll come back someplace is more harmful to my enjoyment of wrestling than Vince McMahon. Give it a rest, please. Please. That's something that we've come under fire for a lot, because... And I would disagree with those people, because if CM Punk is in the news, as a news show, we are going to cover that news.
Yes, yeah, because then if Punk does return to wrestling and we didn't cover those stories, it's a bit stupid.
Yes. Matthew Pensy says, I think if the ladder match killed the flow... of the show, I hope they can fix it on TV, but right now the Bucks feel bigger than the title belt.
Yep, that was... I think that's also because, as much as we love Adam Page... He hasn't been built up to the level of Jericho, Bucks, Omega, Cody. So when you have this guy who's been in mid-card matches since, the AEW TV started, the pay-per-view began, it's not, when he's suddenly in there fighting for the inaugural championship, it feels like a foregone conclusion anyway. Yeah,
no, I agree. Nick Cavello says, first off, glad Havoc won the triple threat. I felt he needed it more. Secondly, what happened to Yuka Sakazaki? She was booked for the Battle Royal.
Oh, I don't know.
But I believe, Kylie Ray was also another name that was missing. I know she wasn't announced, but she hasn't been seen since Double or Nothing. So I don't know on that one. Thank you, Apex Predator, for your donation. And Tim Arn says, thank you for the show, guys. You and AEW brought my spirits back up after last night. Lovely time with the boys. So thank you very, very much. I suppose the only other thing we should note, headline-wise, was that in the sort of press conference stuff afterwards, when Hangman Page was being interviewed about his loss, he was interrupted by the Bastard Pack, who threw a bottle of water at him and effectively told, I came back to AEW for revenge. So we are going to get that Hangman Pack feud.
And probably something else.
Oh, God, yeah, you're absolutely right. We forgot about this.
The next pay-per-view. So we're going to start TV on the 2nd of October, and the first pay-per-view of the TV TNT era is going to be called Full Gear.
It's 4 weeks after.
And it's going to be on November 9th.
Yes, which is, yeah.
And Full Gear is, of course, a Hangman Page sort of catchphrase.
Is indeed, yes.
So whether he'll be going after Jericho or whether it's going to be built around him versus Pac, we'll have to find out. But now, we've got some more.
Sorry, thank you, Daniel, for your donation, and Mr. Thrups, thank you for your comment. Who says, "Thank you, Marathon Men. Your patron content is ace."
Oh, thank you very much. Well, we're going to make another video now. We're also going to be back tomorrow with the full Wrestle Ramble review
thank you, Erica.
of the All Out show. And when I say tomorrow, I mean Monday, because right now it's Sunday for us, because we've stayed up very, very late.
Yes.
But please click the videos that have just appeared on the desk to catch up with the latest awesome WrestleTalk things, and press this button right here, which will make you a pledge hammer on Patreon, where you can play against us in fantasy predictions. I've been Ollie Davis, this has been Luke Owen, and that was wrestling.